The Crito takes place on the eve of Socrates' execution. Crito has come to the prison, bribed the guard, made arrangements, and wants to persuade Socrates to escape. Socrates says, well, this is all a matter of whether or not it's right to escape. He doesn't dispute that the verdict against him was unjust, that it should have gone the other way, but that doesn't mean that his escape would be just. And this is what it's going to depend on for him. Now, the Crito is an extremely rich dialogue. There's a lot going on here, even though it's just a few pages long. We're only going to focus on one little thing today now, though. We may be coming back to the Crito at different times in the future. But we're only going to focus on one part, and it's a part that is a fundamental aspect of Socratic and Platonic ethics. So it's something that we're going to be seeing popping up in different forms elsewhere. And it's the foundation of the argument that Socrates develops in the rest of the Crito that leads to his conclusion that it in fact would not be the right thing to do to escape. It would not be in Socrates' own best interest to do so. So let's see where that foundation lies. One of the reasons that Crito marshals forth to try to persuade Socrates to escape is how shameful it would be if he didn't, how bad it would look. What are people going to think about this? And Socrates' immediate responses to that is, well, it doesn't matter what people think. The opinions of just anyone are of no importance. What's important are the opinions of the people who know, the people who have some understanding. Just as in training, if you went out for some sort of athletic activity and you procured yourself a trainer, what would you do? What trainer would you seek out? Someone who is a skilled and experienced trainer who has an understanding of nutrition and the human body, or just some average person on the street corner. Obviously, it's the opinions that are based on knowledge that matter, not just any opinion whatsoever. So Socrates undercuts this criterion, this appeal to shame, this appeal to what motivates most people in the ancient Athenian society, and he's going to replace it with something else. Now, this metaphor of training and athletics is the vehicle by which Socrates then proceeds to introduce an analogy. And we're going to call this analogy the Socratic proportion. And so the Socratic proportion starts with the first part of the analogy, and that is the relationship of the body to health. Okay? Health is the good of the body. What's harmful for the body is disease. Okay? So health has a certain relation to the body. This is what benefits the body. Is anything that is conducive to bodily health is good for the body. Anything that's detrimental to the bodily health is bad for it. So health is the good of the body. So that's fairly evident. That's plain. If you follow bad advice for exercise, if you eat unnutritious foods, then you're going to harm your body. It's not in your own interest to do so. So Socrates says health is to the body in the same relation, the same way as justice is related to that which is benefited by justice and harmed by injustice. And here we can fill in for that which is benefited by justice and harmed by injustice what's understood but not specifically mentioned here in this dialogue, and that is the soul, psyche, the mind or the soul, that which gives us life and that involves all aspects of our life, including our thought and reason and our minds. Health is to the body as justice is to the soul. So justice is something that benefits the soul, and injustice is something that harms the soul. The doing of justice and the doing of injustice. Now, Socrates doesn't justify this any further. He doesn't argue for why justice rather than something else, like maybe pleasure or something else is the good of the soul, why it's justice that's the good of the soul. We'll see Plato raising relevant considerations to this claim in other dialogues that we're going to be reading yet this semester. But if we turn to this, the Socratic proportion, health is to the body as justice is to the soul, Socrates then asks Crito, well, which is more important to you, your body or your soul? The body or the mind? What would you rather have? Would you rather continue life with a decrepit body, but a fully functioning and still keen and sharp mind? Or would you rather live with a perfectly healthy physical body, but a mind that has been that has deteriorated, okay, with dementia, but a perfectly healthy body? Well, it's no choice here that the mind is something is esteemed as much more important than the body. And Socrates also asks Crito another question that's not difficult at all for Crito to answer. That is it life worth living if the body is damaged, okay, deteriorated, damaged beyond repair to a point where you can't really function and do things anymore? And Crito says, no, it's not worth living like that. No one would want to live like that. Okay. So if the soul is more important than the body, and we want to avoid damage to the soul more than we want to avoid damage to the body, then the question about whether or not Socrates should escape comes down to the question as to whether or not it would be just for him to escape.